Appreciate everybody coming this morning as we talk about a very different subject for us, and that is weeds. And the reason we wanted to do this is so many people garden, but they get frustrated because they don't understand the weeds. And weeds are sort of the scourge of every gardener. Now, weeds can be defined in hundreds of different ways, and I'm sure you've heard everything from people saying weeds are plants dealing with an unhappy gardener, weeds are plants that are simply out of place. All of those above are true. Anything can be a weed, every plant in the garden. For us, we actually have a full-time person that does nothing but cut seed off things in the garden, because some of our favorite plants can become weeds. It's basically a plant in the wrong place where a human doesn't want it. So the key to understanding, to controlling weeds and being able to deal with them is to understand the weeds. So first of all, there are three basic groups of weeds. There are perennial weeds, which means they're there and their root systems remain there throughout the year. Then you have annual weeds, and 90% of our weeds are annual weeds. They come up each year, they do their entire life cycle, then they disappear, and they deposit seed. And as gardeners, we call that the seed bank, and that is nature saying, I don't want ground to ever be bare. Nature devised a system so that when a hurricane, natural disaster, whatever came in, there would be enough seed in the seed bank to replenish and keep the soil from washing away. So in every county, there is a weed seed bank count. In Wake County, there are 7,000 weed seed per square foot of bare soil. Now think about that number a minute. 7,000 per square foot. They will come up. The key is understanding when they come up and how to prevent them from coming up. Some of the weeds, the majority of horticultural weeds, require light to germinate. Therefore, if it's dark, those weed seed will sit there. If you go in and mulch and you have weed seed, those weed seed will sit there until they get light. Other seed, a much smaller number, actually require dark to come up. They will never germinate until you apply mulch. And when you apply mulch, all of a sudden it's dark, they're going to come up. Weed seed many of them have very long life expectancies. Some of those can remain in the garden for hundreds, even thousands of years. So the idea that mulching will get rid of weeds doesn't work. It keeps the ones that require light from germinating. But if you ever allow that layer of mulch to disappear, not good. A lot of people thought, well, I don't like to have to mulch every year, so I'm going to go put down ground fabric. Worst thing ever happened was ground fabric. But ground fabric prevents a lot of moisture and all the nutrients and a lot of the air from getting down to the roots. So while initially you'll have less weeds, your plants are under stress and dying. And then what will happen is debris will wind up. Some people actually mulch on top of their ground fabrics to make it look better. Well, then the weed seed lands on top of that and come up. So it really does nothing to prevent weeds, but it does a lot to make plants suffer. So and same for black plastic. It's just not things you want to use. So understanding within the winter annuals and the summer annual weeds. You're not going to find many winter annual weeds now. They are mostly gone. Those are things like chickweed, henbit. Not saying you want to occasionally find them, but sometimes they just get off whack. And they'll come up, and we found henbit blooming last week. That should have been dormant by middle to end of May. So every now and then you'll find some of that crazy stuff. All right, so within those weeds, you have grassy weeds, which include the sedges, and then you have broadleaf weeds. So I thought we'd show you some of my favorites today, and we'll talk about several of those. So we talked a little about perennial weeds. The most important perennial weed that you will have in this area is Bermuda grass, Cynodon dactylon. This thing, it will run, that's a week's worth of growth right there. That's a foot of growth in 1 week. This is unbelievable.
Is that what my mother used to call joint grass?
No, that was most common names are regional. So she could have called this joint grass. Most people call centipede grass joint grass. So that's the probably common names we don't know. This is what's used on golf courses. If you play golf, they have a hybrid, much finer textured Bermuda grass because it runs like a mother. So this is used as a warm season turf. The reason I don't like it is you can't keep it out of the flower beds. Unless you're out there once a week, you have no chance of doing that. A lot of people say, well, I'll grow zoysia. Zoysia runs almost as fast as Bermuda grass. It's about a third slower. But these are tough. You can kill these, you can pull them up, but you must get the underground rhizome. This right here is the rhizome. Sometimes above ground, sometimes below ground. If you just pull it off the top and you don't get it below, it'll go as much as 2 to 3 inches below ground. And that's why herbicides are really the best way to kill this. And it's going to take at least 3 applications. It's not going to be just one that will do that. Now, there are chemicals out there called graminicides. Graminicides, the family of grasses is Graminaceae. So graminicides only kill things in the Graminaceae family. So if you've got this in your shrubs, you can spray a graminicide over top and it will not bother your shrubs and it will take out this. But it's going to take you at least 3 sprays. Now, when you're spraying this, if you're using Roundup and it's out in an open area, people will say, all right, well, the directions say 3 ounces a gallon, but if I put 6 ounces, I'll kill it faster. Doesn't work that way. That actually does the opposite. Because the way Roundup works, Roundup is a growth regulator. It's not a poison, it's a growth regulator. It causes the roots to multiply so fast that the plant can't take up enough nutrients and it starves itself to death. So when you put too much, you actually defeat the purpose and the way Roundup works. And the plant will look terrible in a couple of days, and after about 2 to 3 weeks, it'll be back and all you've done is piss it off. And it will grow even faster. So the way to get rid of Bermuda grass, something like Roundup, is actually cut it to 1/3 the strength and spray it 3 times at weekly intervals. That is far more effective. That will take Bermuda grass out. There are a lot of other annual grasses. This is goosegrass, and goosegrass, you'll see it in your lawn, it lays flat. You can mow it, you won't get a bit of it because it absolutely lays flat. This is an annual, and this will reseed. Once they start sending spikes up, that needs to be a red flag to say seed are coming. And the key to controlling weeds is never let weeds add to the seed bank. Your job as a gardener is to deplete the seed bank over and over and over again. Probably one of our biggest problems in the area is this. This is crabgrass. 2 basic types, smooth crabgrass and hairy crabgrass. And the difference is one's smooth and one's hairy. Other than that, they do about the same thing. So these are their seed heads, and they're probably going to be dropping within 7 days. So once you see this, you've got just a matter of days to get it out before it drops more. There are chemicals. You can take this out of a lawn, out of a flower bed. You can go in with one of those graminicides and get it out. I always prefer pulling when I can. I'm not a herbicide guy, but there are times and places to use them. If weeds just get ahead of you, the only way you're going to be able to catch back up is to one time use a herbicide. But for me, weed killers and any pesticides are to be used to get to the point that you don't need them any longer. So what makes this come up? Crabgrass requires light to germinate. It will never generate in the shade. You will not have this in a woodland garden. You will not have this in thick turf. You only have this in turf if you mow it too low. If you mow it less than 3.5 inches, you will have this. If you mow your turf at 1 to 2 inches, you will have a ton of crabgrass. It increases by something like 50%. I mean, they've done research on it. It is an amazing plant. But again, if you've got just a few of them, pull them out and get them out quickly. All right, then we have the sedges. Oh, actually, while I got you, this is Bermuda grass. This is the underground part of Bermuda grass that you normally don't see. All right, sedges are not grasses, but they look like grasses. And you have basically 2 types. You have yellow nut sedge, which is a perennial. And if you see these little white roots, easy to tell yellow nut sedge when you pull it. It is just as white as can be when it comes out. And it goes over and runs and forms a little nut about that big. And then that nut runs again, and it runs again, and runs again. This is really hard to take out with herbicides. If there's nothing around it, you can do the Roundup 3 to 5 times at weekly intervals. It will take it out. If it's in your plants, you need to pull it out. There are chemicals, but none of them are 100%. They might burn it back 75%. You are much better pulling this out. And man, once it gets a big mass, it will take a while to get that out. And then you have the purple nutsedge group, which includes purple nutsedge and a plant called Kalinga. So this is an annual. So this is the annual version of this. It's shorter. If you look in your grass right now and you don't have a really good stand of grass, you've got a lot of this. This comes up in midsummer, and man, it just comes up almost overnight. It takes it from the time it germinates till it's dropping seed about 10 days. If that gives you an idea of how fast this thing is out there. This is much easier to take out with herbicides. There are some that will take out Kalinga and purple nutsedge, and some of those will work over your broadleaves. Read the instructions if you wind up having to use those. But the key again, do not let it go to seed. And these are the seed heads right here. All right, then we've got the broadleaf weeds. And again, we got annuals and perennials. This is one of everybody's favorite, perennial. This is Phytolacca americana. This is actually planted intentionally in gardens in Europe. They love this. We call it poke salad here, or pokeweed here in the South. It actually is edible. It does also kill you, so you have to know how to cook it. One does wonder how many people we had to kill before we found out it was edible. And it forms these flowers, and it comes up and it grows quick. It'll go from this tall to this tall in 10 days. It'll go from this height to 7 feet tall in another 2 weeks. And it gets big. These are the flowers. Once you see the flowers, you need to get it up pretty quick, because once it forms the purple berries, every bird will take it and spread it all over. It is brutal. It's okay to pull up when it gets small, but it has a taproot that will swell to 1 inch across. And you will ruin your back trying to pull it out once it gets big. So best way, if you get one too big, is get you a little hand spray with Roundup, snip it off, and just spray the stump. And it'll pull it down in there. All broadleaves are fairly easy to kill with herbicides. But if you use a broadleaf to kill the weeds, you're going to kill all your plants that are also broadleaf. So that's where you have this good-bad thing. Now, we like the fact that this is a native. You know, some of our worst weeds are natives. And you hear everybody talk about how great native plants are? Sorry. There's some great natives, there's great non-natives. There's some bad natives and some bad non-natives. It's not one or the other based on where it's from. Birds love the fruit on this. Now, if you're trying to feed the birds and you don't mind having a whole forest of this, which you will have, the birds absolutely adore this. All right, this is a perennial. It's a short-lived perennial. You're generally going to get 3 years of this, and then it's gone. Then you have to plant another one if you like it. This is a plant a lot of people use for their health. This is amaranth. So if anybody takes amaranth, this is our native amaranth. They form these large tassels, and they will drop hundreds of seed. You generally see this mostly in moist areas, but it's a bear to get. One that's gained a lot of popularity recently is this. I grew this when I was a kid, this common name of rabbit tobacco. Now, people, I've all of a sudden read in the last month, everybody is starting to intentionally want to grow this because they've read these great articles about how beneficial it is to humans. And I'm like, you obviously aren't gardeners. You would never intentionally grow rabbit tobacco. It forms a little rosette of silvery leaves, about this tall, sort of innocuous, but when it comes up like this and starts dropping all those seed, you're not going to like it. Fortunately, it's one of the easier weeds to pull up. So if you're going to have a weed, this is probably the one to have, but it will get out of control very quickly. A perennial weed that, in my opinion, is probably the worst perennial weed in the world to get rid of is clover. This is clover. This is how it grows. It grows from a massive rootstock underground. You spray most products out there, it laughs. You round up this, it will laugh at you. It may burn some leaves off, but it will be back with a vengeance, and it will let you know it did not like being sprayed with Roundup. This is one you're either going to have to dig out or you're going to have to do Roundup like 5 times at weekly intervals. It is a tough one. Just you see a little bit of flower there. I'm reading in people who don't like to mow lawns, the anti-lawn crowd. They say, well, just plant it in clover. I'll be damned. Do you realize how bad of a weed this is? That's the most insane thing I've ever heard of. They're like, oh, well, you can go out and look at all the bees in your lawn. I'm sorry, I don't need bees in my lawn. I've got bees everywhere else. Anybody that's ever intentionally planted clover in their lawn regrets it. It will seed into every bed you got, and you will not get rid of it. It is a nightmare of a plant. So I'd like to just meet those people and slap them. Anybody that said that clover in your garden is good. It's just nuts. All right, here's another one. This is called wild strawberry. It's not actually a strawberry. It's a potentilla. You don't want this. It roots at every single node. Everywhere you have, it drops down. Everywhere it touches the ground, it forms a root. This is a perennial. It's not going to die at the end of the year. It will form these little red berries that actually you can eat. You know, you'd have to be awful hungry, but you can eat it. But it runs. You can just see. This is probably about 2 weeks worth. That's how fast they grow. See, the weeds are what we call early successionary plants. The way nature figured it, ground's bare, I got to get it covered quick. So early successionary plants are the quickest growers and generally the shortest lived plants, but the things that nature knew would cover the ground super duper fast. Again, weed killers will pull it up. Weed killers will take it out if there's nothing near it that's a broadleaf, but all of these are going to be broadleafs. So if you've got them in a garden bed, pull it out is the only way. And if you leave one little piece, it comes right back. So what you really want to get these out, you need a good tool. My favorite is this. It's a cobra-headed weeder. It is the single best tool to weed with for most weeds. You can buy them online. They're, I don't know, like 15, 20 bucks. It is excellent and it lasts forever. And that allows you to get down under it because a lot of these, the roots go down. And many of these, anything that has a root that's that thick, if you cut the root, it's probably going to come back. Anytime you see thick roots, they will come back if you damage them. So you need something that gets down underneath and gets the roots out. It's only when you get the roots down to a point that they're less, about half of a pencil lead thickness, that they won't come back. Because that root is full of storage. That's a storage organ for it. All right, one of our favorite annuals is this. This is known as prostrate spurge. This is a euphorbia. So this is in the same family as same genus as a poinsettia. I don't like it as good as poinsettias. It from the time it germinates to when it drops seed is about 5 to 7 days. So you will go out on Monday morning and you will see it. It is that big. By Saturday, it is this big and dropping seed. So this, you have no bandwidth to let it drop. And every day, so this is probably about 10 to 12 days old. Every day it's dropping 100 seed per plant. So think about that number.
What?
100 seed per day is going in your, so if you pull this up, within a week, you're going to have 100 times how many days you had left it. So this is where, if these get away from you, you're probably going to need to look at pre-emergent herbicides. Pre-emergents can be put out liquid or granular, and what they do compared to Roundup, Roundup is a post-emergent. Means the plant comes up, then you put the herbicide. Pre-emergents, you put it down before it comes up. If you don't, it has no value. The way pre-emergents work, you put it down, it forms a coat over the ground. When the seed germinates, it comes through it, it singes it off. That's the way pre-emergents work. So if you put out pre-emergence and then you go pulling weeds, you just negated all your pre-emergent herbicide use, because what you're doing is you're destroying that barrier that singes the weeds. If you put pre-emergence out and then you take a hoe out there, you've ruined your pre-emergent. You wasted your time. So you've got to understand how the pre-emergents actually work is by creating that barrier on the surface. So if you, and again, I'm not a fan of pre-emergence, but if you get a whole carpet of this, that's the best way to get it back under control so that you don't have to use pre-emergence. Okay, what other joys do we have in here?
Tony, why are you not a fan of pre-emergence?
Because I work in the garden without gloves, and I don't want that stuff on my hands. Pre-emergent, I don't like. That's your number one organ in your body is your skin. I don't want anything that's going to absorb through my skin this bad. I just am not a fan of pre-emergence. But when I worked at the state fairgrounds and I had 350 acres, I had to use them. I can't hand weed 350 acres. There's not enough people out there. Here, we have very specific areas. We will use some pre-emergence occasionally at the edge of the beds, but rarely do we use them. Also, pre-emergence, you have to look at the label and see what plants you can apply it around. And there might be 30 plants on the label. Well, we have 27,000 different kinds of plants. Those are not on the label. Nobody's ever tested it. So if we use pre-emergent, it could kill everything we've got in a bed. So that's why I just don't like them as a general rule. But everything, chemicals and pesticides, they're not, everybody likes to make everything go into black and white buckets. It's good, it's bad. There are no black and white buckets. There's only a gray bucket. There are times that pesticides are the right answer. There are times they're not. If you can avoid using them, always avoid using them. But if you're about to lose the garden and give up gardening because of them, that's the time to use them. So good and bad. Now I showed you earlier the prostrate spurge. This is the giant prostrate spurge. If you don't have that, be glad. This grows twice as fast as this one. Both of these are native to the southeast U.S. Did you know that? These are native plants. So all those native plant people that you have, give them this. Take bushel bags of this and give it to them. Say, we heard you like natives. Let us give you some of our best natives. All right, then we have oxalis, another favorite. And there are many different oxalis. There are two main ones that you will see. This is called yellow oxalis. This is much easier to pull. It's a little clump. It'll usually have 5 to 6 stems, get about this tall, and it forms, let's see, I don't see any seed on that one right now. Forms these little, I don't see any seed heads on it right now, but usually it's a small little, real thin seed head at the top. And again, you want to get them before the seed drop. The really bad one is this, the red oxalis. That is as tall as it ever gets. Whereas this one will get up about this tall. This thing seeds, dropping seed at 5 days from germination. This is unreal. And this thing will form a little running, when it gets old enough, it'll form a little running root underground. This is a beast. I'd take this 100 times before I'd take any of this. These are not good plants. This is an annual, this is a perennial. This one ain't dying at the end of winter. You got to pull this sucker up, and it is nasty. This is one you see a lot in lawns. You'll see some in beds. This is called gnawel, G-N-A-W-E-L, gnawel. It's sort of it's annoying, but not it's not hard to pull up. It's not the worst cedar. So if you're going to have weeds, this is another one of those. Hey, that's a pretty okay weed. Has these tiny white flowers. It does drop seed, so it's not desirable, but certainly not on the super bad list. Then we have violets. If you've ever had violets, you're a big promoter of getting rid of domestic violets. They are not good. Violets, this is the flowers, but almost all violets also form what's called clastogamous flowers, which means they form a bud and they form seed before they ever open. They don't even have to be pollinated. They don't need to get a piece before they're giving you more offspring. They are unbelievable. This I'd put in my top 10 worst weeds. When you get these, oh my God, I just can't say enough bad things. Some of them leaves are big and round. They have beautiful purple flowers that people just love. Viola odorata. It's native. It smells good. Oh my God. Nothing with cleistogamous flowers. You don't want a plant that reproduces without having to have sex. Not a good idea. These are just, and these don't get any bigger than this. But man, once you got them, it is a bear to ever get rid of them. I'd put top 5 worst weeds ever.
Absolutely.
This is mulberry weed. And it forms, these are the little flower heads. And these begin to drop at generally 10 days old. And each one of these, there's probably 20 that drop at the base. By the time it gets this big, it's dropped a couple hundred. And it grows fast as can be. It'll get up to about 2.5, 3 feet tall if it's in the shade. Mulberry weed, one you really do not want. This is sort of an interesting weed. This is another one that the Europeans actually plant in their gardens. This is a eupatorium, so this is in the same family as Joe Pye weed. This is Eupatorium capillifolium. It's called dog fennel. If you've ever farmed, you hated dog fennel. This is a perennial, and it will get a big enough clump that you can almost bog a tractor down trying to get it out. It's fine if you pull it out when it's early. And it is beautiful. It absolutely is gorgeous. It gets about 5 feet tall, has this beautiful flower. And the cool thing about it is it will never make seed unless it has a partner. So as long as you only have one, it's fine. And that's the thing about Europe, is they only have one clone. And it doesn't set seed, but if they ever get a second clone, it will take over Europe. So not a good thing that we want. And let's see, I had another one in here, but I don't see where that has gone. Where did I was looking for Phyllanthus, but let's see where that went. Did I lose my Phyllanthus? That's bad when you lose your weeds. Oh, there it is. Phyllanthus, you do not want this. You do not. My number 1 worst weed that exists. Phyllanthus, underneath the leaves, at the base of every leaf, it forms a tiny little, I don't know if you can see those. These are actually little plantlets. And every leaf will form 24 plantlets. So if it's got 100 leaves, that's 240 plantlets that will drop every day. It is unbelievable. It gets about this tall. And the fact that the plantlets are on the underside of the leaves, most people don't see it. And they think, oh, well, this is not really a problem. This is a big problem. You do not want this to get established. Now, I did...
Common name on that? You know?
It has one. I don't remember offhand. Just look up Phyllanthus and you'll see it. Phyllanthus, Phyllanthus. And I did mention that we typically this time of year don't have any cool season weeds. Look what I found. This is bittercress. This is one of the really bad winter annual weeds. Why we have it now, I have no idea. This thing got totally screwed up on its calendar. This one starts flowering and dropping seed 5 days. So all of these are seed. It's already dropping. It's again, in the wintertime, this is a mess. So again, how do we prevent weeds? The key is deplete the seed bank. That's number 1. When we started, this was all tobacco field. So we had to go in, take one section at a time, deplete the seed bank, and just move each area. We initially used solarization. So we initially would spread out big sheets of black plastic and basically bake the soil and kill all the weed seed. That works. But you're also killing the soil microbes. So a paper came out back in the 80s and it said that it showed that Roundup was actually safer on the soil microbes than solarization. So we actually switched from something that was organic to something that was not, but was better on the microbes in the soil, because the microbes are what run everything in the soil. So is there a right and wrong? Is there a black and white? No. It's understanding. The other thing we did is we hedged the downwind side. Weed seed are light. They're designed to be able to move. Some are moved by animals, some are moved by birds, some are moved a lot by wind. So downwind side here, most of the prevailing winds are from the south. So we have a hedge all the way. Our whole properties are hedged on the south side to keep weed seed from blowing in from other people. Now, does that work in a hurricane? No. Okay. But it works in everything other than a hurricane really well. So it's just like in farmers will have a trap crop out in the field, a row of trees that prevent not only wind, but it catches weed seed that blow from one area to another. So that's important. As we evolved, we now, every bed you see on the property is 50% native soil and 50% compost. We now have equipment, so we turn that soil once we mix it, and we watch the seed. And the key, if it's done right, is to never let a weed get big enough to drop seed. And once we turn it enough times, those weeds, we let the weed seed come up. You want to let them come up. You just don't want to let them drop seed. So once they come up, you turn it, guess what happened? You just killed that weed. Let them come up again, you turn that. And you do it enough times, all of a sudden you have no more weed seed coming up because you've depleted the seed bank. It's all about understanding the seed bank. You can do the same thing with pesticides. If you've got a new bed that you're putting in, put the soil in there and don't plant it. Water it, treat it just like it's got plants in it. Encourage the weeds to come. The minute they're up, before they drop seed, spray them. And continue to do that until no more weed come up. Then it's safe to plant. So it's all about depleting the seed bank. But remember, every time you pull a weed, you have exposed more weed seed that are underneath the soil. That's what you have to understand about pulling. And that's why, from a purely time point of view, spraying where possible is much better from a time perspective than pulling. Because spraying kills it and does not open up any more weed seed to germinate. All right, I've gone through a lot. Any questions? That's a lot of information. Yeah?
What's your opinion on horticultural vinegar?
Great question. A lot of places now are looking for new things to come out. And vinegar is a great thing. Vinegar will burn off an annual weed, but it also acidifies the soil. So if you're a plant and you're looking out there and you're like, oh, this is great, and you start going out, oh, patch, so don't like that, acidic. Oh, don't like that, too acidic. Don't like that, too acidic. You've changed the whole acidification of the soil, but you've done it randomly. That's not really what you want. Is a one time or a couple times with vinegar going to be okay? Absolutely. But to go out and make vinegar your herbicide of choice, man, you're screwing up. You're screwing up the microbes, because that is very acidic. So it sounds good. It's organic. It's great, but it has repercussions. To me, the microbes in the soil are number one. You take the most care of those, and vinegar is just not great on soil microbes. Great question. Awesome. Glad you asked that.
What did you say was the spray on that Bermuda grass?
For Bermuda grass, if it's not in plants, the best thing is Roundup and use a third of the rate 3 weeks in a row. If it's in plants, you want to buy a graminicide. And there's a couple on the market. Fusilade is probably the most common one, Fusilade. And that will take the Bermuda out of that. And again, old-fashioned pulling, but Bermuda is a bear to dig. It is just because those roots can go, as I mentioned, 2 to 3 inches deep. Other questions? Yes?
I have a brick wall towards my porch, so keeping the weeds out is always a problem. I found a simple formula online for hypertonic salt solution. What's your opinion of that? I know it'll kill everything else.
Yeah, again, the problem with salt solutions is they will kill, but they kill the soil and they kill the microbes. And for me, it's, all right, yes, it kill the weeds, but what does it do to the microbes? And yes, salt does. Salt does move through the soil, so you definitely want to be careful. And you don't ever want to use soil sterilants. There are a number of those on the market. So people think, oh, I got a driveway, I should put a soil sterilant out because I'm never going to plant anything there. What you don't understand is that tree, all right, this tree, for example, if you draw a line straight down from the limbs, the roots from here to the trunk, say that's 15 feet, 12 feet. Those roots are support roots. The roots that pick up water and nutrients start here and go out another 12 feet. So you spray a sterilant out here, your tree's dead. You have to be very careful. It's the same with using broadleaf weed killers. As again, I said, you may have a case where that's the best option. Know what's in that broadleaf. The chemical you want to avoid at all cost is dicamba, sometimes labeled Banvel, same product. The other two products in there are usually 2,4-D, which is an amine salt, and Mecoprop or MCPP. Those are not mobile. Dicamba is mobile. You put dicamba out here, it will kill your trees. You do not want to use anything with dicamba. That's if we talk about good, bad, that's as close to bad as you get. So soil sterilants are never a good idea. Always think about the microbes. How can I do the least damage, manage the weeds, but not kill the microbes? That's sort of the thought process we all use. And everybody's coming up with homeowner versions. And I'm all for things, but you got to think, it's just like the vinegar, it's just like the salts. They sound good, but the damage they do is going to be far worse than a product like Roundup. Now, Roundup's been vilified. If you watch late night TV, like I do when I can't sleep, oh my God, lawsuits, Roundup causes cancer. Well, not if you use it correctly, it doesn't. If you drink enough of it and eat enough soybeans that have been sprayed with it, it could be a problem. But no, if you put it out and you use it to kill weeds properly, it's not an issue. Roundup is very quickly tied up in soil particles, very quickly. It does not have soil mobility. The only where Roundup's going to be a problem, if you sprayed a large weed whose roots were tangled into a tree, it's going to those roots will graft, and it can move from one root into another root. Now, most likely that's not going to be a problem, but that is the reality. That's the one thing I would tell you about using Roundup. And when you use it, don't go out and spray more than you need. All you have to do is just get a light coating. You spray too deep, not good with anything. As I mentioned, the fact that I hate herbicides doesn't mean I don't use them on occasion, but you use them to get to the point that you don't need them. It's all about how you manage the gardens. If you go on a 3-week vacation in July and you come back, you will need some weed killers. No question about it. That's just reality. Great questions. Any other questions? Yes.
How would you get rid of and control English ivy, especially on trees?
English ivy, okay. Great question. All right, first thing I would do. Now, English ivy itself does not damage the tree. It only causes a problem when it gets out on the limbs, on the outer limbs, and then it actually will cover the foliage, and it causes excess weight, which will cause the limbs to break. But when it's going up the trunk, it's not an issue. So first thing you do is come in at the base, take a clipper, and cut all the way around the base. And that's pretty easy to do. Just clip right at the base. And usually you've got about 5 or 10 clips, and then it's gone. Then what will happen, all those energy will go back in the roots, and next year it'll come back out from the roots. You spray it with Roundup. The only month you can kill it with Roundup is April. Any other month, you might as well spray water on it. But if you spray it in April, you will kill it. So once you cut it back, you may be able to dig it out. But if not, next spring, just go into what comes back and hit it with Roundup. Just keep the Roundup off the trunk of the tree, because while it's not supposed to bother most trees, and it won't, if you've got a thin bark tree or a tree that has damage on the bark, you don't want to get Roundup in the tree. So digging it's always ideal. That's always first choice. But April, that's your month. Great question.
Now the Japanese silk grass, it's just pull, 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 pull.
Great question. Japanese stiltgrass, Microstegium, the weed from hell. Considered probably the most noxious weed in America right now. Came in as a packing material on a ship. if you haven't seen it, the reason it's called mile a minute grass, it grows almost a mile a minute. It's really thin. It is an annual. So it only comes back from seed that are deposited. So you've got two options. Early spring, go in if you've got an area that you can use pre-emergent in. That will be great. The other option, pulling is great, but if there's so much, I've seen areas, natural areas in the forest, you ain't gonna pull it. It is not gonna happen. So you can go in with a graminicide and go over top. But realize, once you go over the graminicide, you've killed what's there. You got so much seed bank, you will have to go in with a graminicide every few weeks the rest of the year. Because the weed seed bank that it deposits is insane. It has ruined a lot of natural areas. That is a mega problem, weed. But thank God it's an annual. So as long as you do not let it drop seed on your property, not an issue. But now birds will pick it up and move it around. I've had it show up in areas, I was like, how the hell did you get here? There's nothing near there. Birds flying over, well, like, oh look, let's drop some microstegium. Isn't this fun? That's a guy's a gardener. Nature's got a great sense of humor. You can tell where you find weeds. It is amazing. Ducks, it's amazing what ducks will bring in. Oh my God, on those web feet, have you ever seen a duck land? It's got all kinds of crap on the feet. You're like, oh my God, look at that collection of weeds. And the minute they land in the water, whoa, the weeds are like heaven. We're a new home. No competition here. Yeah, I love birds, but damn, leave your weeds somewhere else. Other questions?
Poison ivy.
Poison ivy. But it's a native. Why would you want to kill it?
Because I'm highly allergic to it.
Poison ivy is another one. It's a perennial. It's going to make, I've seen poison ivy with stems at the base of a tree that big. If it's a tree, obviously you want to cut it. Find somebody who can cut it that's not allergic to it, because there's no way you can spray up in the tree. You've got to first of all sever it, and then once it comes back, it's easy to kill with Roundup. It's not a hard plant to kill. It's just that when it's up that tree, and once it goes up the tree, it starts dropping seed, and you won't get rid of it for years. So it's a great native, has great fall color, it feeds birds. But damn, that's a native I will do without. And what if you don't want to use Roundup? For that one, there are other broadleafs that you could do. But again, be careful. Don't use anything with dicamba or banvel because it moves. Roundup is by far, in my opinion, the best pre-emergent, bar none. As long as it's used correctly. As I mentioned, don't freak out because you see every lawyer in the world and everybody's saying it causes cancer. It's only if you drink it or eat it or do stupid shit with it that it's going to be a problem. If you use it according to the directions, it is not an issue. And it's fast on a plant within minutes. I mean, it can have a thunderstorm an hour later and the Roundup's fine. It goes into the plant so quickly. And it doesn't really bother microbes. It's of all the pesticides out there, I would take Roundup 100 to 1 over everything else for least environmental damage. Even the environmentalists have now embraced Roundup. They've gotten in bed with Monsanto Bayer. Well, no, it's actually more than that. It actually is because it's effective.
It is effective.
It is. It is the least damaging other than pulling. And pulling is not realistic in sometimes. But it's funny, I laugh though, the people go in now, they're trying to bring back natural areas that have been taken over by invaders, which is about the dumbest thing logically that you'll ever do, because you've got a massive seed bank. You can pull all those plants out, you can have it pristine. Next year, it's going to be back the same way. It's not realistic because that's not the way nature's seed bank works. It would take you a decade at least to be able to recover an area. I mean, I hate it's that way, but that's the reality. It's not what people want to hear, but that is the reality of how a seed bank works. It's not a one-year thing. In a garden, if you really focus on it, you can recover it in 2 years. But it will take 2 years of watching and make sure that you are getting those seed before they deposit more seed bank. Any other? Great questions, man.
One.
Yes.
I'm trying to bring more bees and more butterflies
Yeah.
to my garden, and then I just want to make sure what kind of pesticides I can
Yeah.
put close to, say, the butterfly bush and
Well, okay, great question. If you're dealing with that, you're more interested in insecticides, because insecticides is what kills insects. Herbicides don't kill insects, they kill weeds. So it's not a herbicide issue, it would be more of an insecticide issue. So there are groups of insecticides that you don't want to use. Things like imidacloprid, sorry, I just blanked out on the group. Look on the label, and it will tell you do not use it near bees. So the key is you don't want to use it on anything that's flowering. But herbicides, you don't want to spray it on a bee nest. And you don't want anybody to use herbicides indiscriminately. That's just dumb. But in terms of, herbicide would kill your butterfly bush before it would kill your butterflies or bees. Great question, though.
About that poison ivy thing that you were just talking about.
Yes.
I had 2 of them with a base that big.
Yes.
I took an axe and not to chop into my pine, but
Yes.
cut a chunk out of it. All right, that died. That was like 30 foot.
Yes.
The root, how do I tackle? Can I just spray it with Roundup?
Roundup, yeah.
Okay.
Now, when you so if you have a big weed that has a base on it like that, what you can do, cut it off and get a couple ways to apply it. You can get a rubber glove that is pesticide resistant, and then you get a painter's mitt on top of that. Put your Roundup spray you mix up on your painter's mitt and just dab it on the cut surface.
Oh, okay.
And that's all it takes.
Okay.
It's easy to do.
I didn't know if you had to spray it on foliage.
No, no.
If you spray it on the...
With cut, but you have to do it on a fresh cut surface. You can't let it wait a day because it'll seal off and then it won't suck it down in there. Yes?
I know hollies are technically not a weed, but when you cut one down, they keep coming from the rootstock like incessantly for years.
Yes, same thing.
Same thing.
When you cut it off, spray either stump with a little squirt bottle of Roundup or take the painter's mitt and just dab it on there. And it will suck it right down in there and
Well, I'll have to recut it.
it's gone. Yes, question?
Hey, did you already discuss the Florida Bethany?
Florida Bethany, that's not a good one. Yeah, that's a bad plant. It's a perennial broadleaf, and it is a problem. But most of the broadleaf weed killers we've talked about will do fine on that.
Any time of the year?
It's growing in the summer, so you want to do it when it's actively growing. Again, the key is going to be if it's around other plants. That's where you got to pull out. If it's only when it's by itself that you can really spray it, but it comes back from root pieces, so you got to be sure to get all the root pieces out.
The guys on, was that the one that has little white, like the rattlesnake weed?
I don't know a plant by that name, but again, common names are very regional. But the Florida Bethany, yeah, it will come back. So you may do the same sort of thing. Get a glove that's pesticide resistant and then put a painter's mitt on it and then go in and just touch those weeds. That time, a lot of time you can get in and among plants by doing that technique. And you may be able to get it out that way. Or in some cases, if it's bad enough, you may have to dig your good plants out, wash them off, and then spray the area, and then when it's gone, put them back. That's actually, if it's really bad, that is the way to go. All right. Thank you all for coming so much. All right. Whew.